I knew I was close for what I was looking for when I found that. Jason was a little surprised when I threw it in the workshop. Jason's wiring up an engine through the middle of the valley. So he's trying to make all this work, and with the allowance for drive-by-wire later, and for the allowance for a front-facing throttle body later. So he's having a great time. It's actually not too bad. It's just got to get your head around doing something in a very different manner. There's wires everywhere. Oh, it's nice and small. That's nice and small. That looks neat and tidy. So did you run the earth for the coil looms? It's back into the middle somewhere?
Oh, all the earths are here.
Down in there? Oh, yep, cool.
Okay.
Yep, excellent. Can go to there. That looks really neat. And then these come up. Yeah, that looks good. So we better label each. Grab the engraver, we'll label the injector plugs, eh?
Yeah.
It kind of works with the manifold. That looks neat. That's very neat. So you've got knock sense wires here.
Yep.
They're in the loom. And the start trigger's in the loom somewhere.
Oh.
Oh, yep. We need to know what starter motor's got in it. Where did you mount the map sensor? Please tell me you put a map sensor in it.
You said I want to buy the ECU.
Oh, we're going to put by the ECU? Cool.
That's what ECU was.
Yep, that works good for me. So run a line inside. Yeah, awesome. I was wondering what I actually said to you about map sensor.
That's what I'm sure you said.
That's good. I'm happy with that. That's neat. As long as there's a map sensor, I'm all good.
Well, there will be.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. We've got a bit of scope. Like,
well, there's a 5-volt.
Elliot's all happy.
There's a 5-volt in earth and 2 in there. So you can put the map sensor into that.
Yep.
Or I can put another line, put another wire in, and you can put that as pedal.
Oh yeah, okay, pedal.
But there's wires.
There's wires there. Yep. Let's put a. I don't even know what map sensor I'm going to put on it. I think we're just going to put a Link one. And did he ever suggest he's going to chuck boost at it? No.
You wasn't talking to him.
No, 1.1 bar. We'll put a Link 1.1. That looks really smart. So that's pretty much ready to fire up, is it? Yeah. Put a manifold on it.
Yeah. You might have to. You might get that through there. You might have to lift this water bridge off to get that through to come up through here.
Yes.
But you might not get those through. I don't know. I haven't tried yet.
So assemble the engine with the loom on it. Though could it slip up? It might be able to slip through here. Oh no. Oh, it's so close. Oh, die grinder.
If you held your tongue right, there you go.
Oh, there you go. Well done.
Oh, hang on. Yeah, because we've got his water bridge pipe. No, I don't know. You might just have to lift this off.
Yep. If you want put manifold, if you want to put a wiring loom underneath your engine, underneath your manifold,
that's what you got to do.
That's what you got to do. But of course, later on, if he puts a front-facing plenum on it, then that all kind of still works for him. And there's a wire. This is the drive-by wire and the throttle body plug, is it?
Yeah.
So that's you've got a throttle body loom.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you got a bought a throttle body loom. So that's got your drive-by wire, and then it's got like an APS and a TPS, whatever.
Well, it's just
TPS, sorry.
It's a 5-volt and the 2 wires through a normal TPS.
Yeah. So if
it does, he just pulls the out of the DI and puts it into.
Yep. That's right. An AM.
An AM.
We probably should say when we say DI, digital input in the ECU, and AN, analog input. Yeah. So sometimes we forget. We just talk in our own language, and people are like, "What are you talking about?" Oh. No, I'm liking this. This looks really smart.
That one there can go under the starter motor. Just made it long enough so you can flick it under the starter motor.
Yep. Perfect. Looks good. Looks really smart.
It'll sit here like that.
Oh, it sits that side, does it?
No, that side.
It does line to do go that side? Yep. Easy. We better mark. We better.
The line probably
Oh, the air temp?
Well,
We are not sure where you're putting that, yeah.
you
We can always cut it down anyway. Yeah, put a little loop in the inside. So to put the manifold on, you kind of have to pull the wires through, and then you sit the manifold down, and then you do it all up.
That becomes his problem.
Yeah, that's his problem.
He won't like that, that's what he got.
We've done a few like this now. It's the same as I did the Sylvia.
Through the middle of the manifold would have been alright.
Yeah, but if when you change to front facing, there's no middle.
It just sits down below it, doesn't it?
Yeah, so it's just going to be through the valley like that. That's perfect. That's good. Might see if we can try and make that go tomorrow, eh? You do your other little bits and pieces and we'll put some bits in it and make it go vroom vroom.
Oh, I don't know what plug for the old speed control.
Gravity's working.
It looks like
Neither. I will check.
Yeah, it looks like a Ford one, but
Yep. So Jace is up to programming that ECU. We've been playing with some other stuff and he's going to put it all together and make an engine ready to run. And look at that.
the right fucking tunnel on the...
Put the right, yep, sublim, yeah, very good. And you made a relay box. Good one. Magicked an engine.
Sort of. There's some gaskets in it.
There's some gaskets. Oh, your throttle body gaskets are optional?
Oh, that was the floor mounted one?
Floor mounted, yep. That tucks in pretty nice. And then you've got covers. That goes through there really nice. And that goes through there really nice. That looks smart, Jace. And this one could probably actually be fed up from the back if you really wanted to, eh?
Well, his one's on that side anyway.
Oh, it's over here?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's going to pop up. That's neat.
Yeah, so you can actually pop it up, you probably should bring it up through somewhere else.
Yeah, and then TPS, same deal. You can probably, possibly, he can, because he's got a little length, bring it up with the injectors and zip tie it with the injectors, maybe?
Do whatever he wants.
He can. It's his engine. He can do whatever he wants.
The only thing I might have an issue with is he's got a water pipe and we don't even have a water pipe, but that's...
It'll fill, you've got enough length in it, it'll feed around the water pump. Pipe.
Well, I've kind of it comes out here anyway, so...
We're mounting it in the next engine bay.
Yeah.
That's funny. That'll work.
We want to put a front mount in.
Oh, we probably should. Yes, correct. You've done everything like you should. Look, gorgeous.
Sort of.
And then you've got an extra relay in for your drive. Oh, yep, you've used a fuse relay. There's no more relays, no fuses. Yep, fuses. Yeah, so you have to feed voltage into that B plug anyway. So just turn, instead of having it as a drive-by-wire relay, just have it as a on.
Oh, just a
Test on.
Just a GB output.
No, just go, yeah, just like, no, just do a test on.
Why let you do that? It needs to be assigned to something. You need to assign the things on, so it's just a...
You watch.
Look, a function test, right? Auxiliary 7.
Yep.
What are we going to assign? How?
Okay, yep.
You remember it's a G4 plus X.
Okay, just call it anything. It doesn't matter what it's called. You just call it a GP output.
And just what I said.
Oh, what did you find in there?
There was stoplights and stuff.
Right. Call it a drive-by-wire relay, or you could call it B-plug relay, and then test on, save it, and it'll just turn on when the ECU's on, and then you can convert it to a drive-by-wire relay when required.
If you could do it.
I think we'll call that a winner. Winner.
Petroleum helps.
Petroleum, that stuff that goes in the bucket there?
Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. So I filled it up before we started it. We started the first time.
Awesome. I'll communicate with the customer. Let them know where we're at. Chicky's happy. So straight out the back, beautiful. It's 575, about 600 to ECU.
About 700. About 700.
At the level line, yep. And map sensor by the ECU, relays and fuses.
Map sensor could be anywhere up to about that far away from the ECU.
Yep, bit of vacuum hose. Doesn't need a knock loom because it's in the loom.
Yep. Start loom's in the loom.
And you've got sub loom.
Did you have any made or no?
I've got some made. I'll bring one over.
Okay.
So I'll just check that.
That's why I didn't make it. There's a little sub loom in there for the TBS.
Yes, and that can be added to later on. So that's nice and simple for them. Looks really good. Looks smart. With that like cover over the front, you won't see that wiring coming in, and then you can tuck that up probably with injectors again.
Well, yeah, well that's
However,
you can leave that down underneath the manifolds. Just really works out how long it needs it to be.
we'd better we'll engrave each of the injector plugs, eh? So it puts the injector plugs on the right place.
I made the colouring the same as you coils, so you can't get it too wrong.
Coils and injectors the same colour. Awesome. I'll get the little blankers for there too. Blankers. I think that's pretty good. You can have a bit of a tidy up of your bench, and I will. You can give me a hand with this transmission service. So for testing, we're just using our test coils, but we are supplying a brand new set of the 2Z coils. And I use the 2Z coils on the early Gen 1 engines, and I do so because they fit down the hole properly. And I use the V6 ones on the Gen 2s because the Gen 2s have got a bigger hole. I've got a video on that. We've modified these coils to fit. We're also going to put some other sensors. We're going to put a couple of these in. So that's for oil pressure and temp, and fuel pressure and temp. Oil pressure gets fitted into this loom here. And we do this pretty standard on all of our looms. We have this little sub loom. And we also have a BSP, 1/8 gas BSP adapter right there. And the Link will do the output for the oil light. And then if extra oil pressure wires are required, not on that one. That one and that one can be used, 1, 2. So they will be up at the dash plugs. As well, we mount them like this. Oh, come on, let me see it. There it is. But this does allow multiple mounting points as well. Righto, I've relocated back to my garage at home. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the process that we go through when we do these limbs. So generally, the first thing we do is we write a plan. My rooster's feeling a bit frisky this morning. I got a new one. I actually went to the dyno tune the other day. Went down to working on a car, and I came back with a rooster. Very normal in my life. But anyway, the process is we write a plan. And I give Jason the plan, and Jason generally makes up the loom. And then we do try to fire it up on the work bench, on the engine. And when I've got time, I try to do the checks over there at the workshop. And that way, you double check everything. In my background, I've come from systems where you always had 2 people check everything. I worked in a wholesaler, part sales, and in there you'd have the person would pick the order, and then a separate person would actually pack and send the order so it got double checked. I was very good at accounting at school, and there's double checks in that as well. So everything we do, we try to double check. Now this one didn't quite go to plan because we've ended up making some modifications to it from the original plan. And that's okay. The main loom all stayed the same, but I've made some changes to Jason's original relay box and to the dash plug and just the general layout of it a little bit. So I'm going to take all the footage that I got of doing that, except the firing it up. So we made it run. Let's watch that. Starts and runs. I think that's everything we need to do. Now Jason can pull the manifold off it, which is a bit of a dissection of the engine, to take the loom off and put it in a box. Right, so I know this thing runs. That's really positive. But I thought if I added, hey, how I'd done it in the workshop, and then it would be a bit confusing. So I've decided I'm just going to throw that footage away, and I'm going to start again and show what's up with this loom, okay? So it comes through pretty much into the back of the engine, as you saw from the previous video. I've gone through and I've got my engraver out and I've engraved the back of the injector plugs. I don't like the little yellow stuff with the labels on it. It's just, at some point I probably should for some jobs, but I like the more standard type look. We've got the coils down the side, and we are using the 2Z coils with the cutoff, and that is because this is a Gen 1 engine and these are the right diameter in the shaft. It's very important that your shaft isn't too big to fit down the hole, okay? I think in the V6 ones, I've got a little bit of footage of the V6 one, but to make them fit you have to take a little bit of insulation off, and I don't like doing that. So we use the 2Z or 3Z type coils on the Gen 1 engines. And I have a box of coils to go with this package. It comes down through the center of the so this setup goes down through the valley. We've got, and this is a trick for Elliot to check that he actually watches this. I've put the small starter connector on it, this one. But then you see I've got this adapter plug up to the later model connector. So that's the later model starter connector. Now I don't think he's going to need that. But if Elliot could let me know if his is this early one or the late one. Chances are I'm just going to send it anyway, because if he ever changes his starter, he can put the later model starter in and it just plugs in. Knock sensors are located in the valley. And again, there is left hand and right hand. That one's actually marked 2 and right. And this one's marked 1 and left. Through the center, we've got this drive-by-wire connector, and I've just spotted I'm going to have to put a couple of little bits in there. And this is why I go through and check everything. I'll put the waterproofy things in there. And just like that, it's done. So in this one, we've also got a pair of wires, if Elliot ever wants to go back to, or wants to change to drive-by-wire. And this is on a subloom. There would be one wire change at the ECU from a digital into an analog for the throttle position sensor on a drive-by-wire. But that was a really clever little suggestion by Jace. Then of course it pops out and it goes along to the coils, and the injectors pop up as well. Now when Elliot puts it together, he can, if necessary, put a couple of zip ties. I'd expect some zip ties going up here. This is on as far as idle speed control. I've supplied a new water temp sensor, and I'm pretty much just going to do that all the time. I've had a few people who I've sent them over. I've told them to put new water temp sensors in, and then their old water temp sensor has failed. So no longer, I'm just going to send it. In the gauge wiring, you'll see these 2 wires. I'll come back to that. We come down to the crank sensor on this side. And so by the crank sensor there is another sub connector, and it runs off to the oil pressure, oil temperature sensor. There are a couple of extra wires in there as well. 2 wires, a brown and a black with a green. They can be used for other things. They were normally used for like an oil pressure switch and air conditioning, but this vehicle doesn't have air conditioning, so these are going to become the possibility of a gauge wiring. So these fittings are a BSP, or 1/8 gas. We've also got an air temp sensor. Got videos on how to fit the air temp sensors, and it's long. Jake's made it extra long, so it's probably going to need a little bit of a curl up in it. But that's the main engine harness. Oh, also that one, purge solenoid, just in case it's needed for compliance or for engineering or to make it roadworthy, whatever you want to call it. We always put it in. If you don't use it, just tuck it out of the way, but we always put that purge solenoid in. So guys overseas, if you're not running your purge, don't stress about it, okay? Over here in New Zealand, it's a legal requirement to have a proper working emission system as far as the breather for the fuel tank. Though there are cars that don't have it from factory, and we don't have to run it on those ones, but the ones that do have it have to have it. Oh, geez. Our rules are crazy at times as well, but we just work with them. We're okay. We know our way around them. So that's the main harness. It's pretty straightforward. Big earth on the back of the engine. Really, oh, no, it's actually in the valley. In the valley, really important. Maybe some P-clips through the centre. Make sure it's held firm, but still able to flex with the engine movement. Well, that's the main loom. That was simple. Now the changes that I made is to the relay block. Because we've got that drive-by-wire thing happening, we'll just, I've got a little bit of scribbles. So I've got a drive-by-wire relay, and then I've got ECU relay, an ignition relay, and a start relay, and a fuel pump relay, and Elliot requested 2 fan relays. I put quite big wiring in here. I put 30 amp fuses, but I really don't want to see more than 20 amps on those fans, and same as fuel pump. Relays, of course, need to be fused. I like to put fuses after, because I will separate off a few circuits. I've changed around a little bit, where normally I would have a separate ignition, like a spare, or like an accessory ignition and a CAN wiring. Power feed, so there's our CAN, that's the computer area network. On this one I joined them together, so let's see, I've got this little wire here. I've got some paperwork. So this plug has been altered a little bit from our standard. Normally we run 10 wires, it's got 12, but I've got a list of what's in there. And then I've added a 12-pin DTM plug for the dash plug. So normally I would put an ignition feed or an accessory power supply in there. And I've still got one, but it's also joined onto the CAN wires. That's allowed to run gauges and stuff like that quite safely, a good power supply off these fuses. This fella here, of course, goes to a battery supply, preferably through a big fuse, and there's the other side of it. Well, Elliot is sorting the power supply into the starter motor, so that's his department. Just want to confirm on that, and in this setup there is no alternator wiring, that is elsewhere. Because I've put the extra fans in and the drive-by-wire, my ignition isn't in here anymore, it's on here. So I've got an ignition switch and a start. So power to there, put the engine on, fuel pump out of that one, those are fans, but fuel pump out of that to make it go, ignition in, hit the start button, vroom vroom, it starts and goes. Providing fuel and compression and all those things are working. And this little plug, that's the dash plug. We've got a couple of auxiliaries, and I've written them in auxiliary 6, auxiliary 2, a DI, which is a digital input. There's an earth, but there's also those, you know how I said there was 2 wires over here for the temp sensor? 2 wires there. And I've got those 2 extra wires and the oil pressure subloom. They're also in here, but as separate wires at this end. So you've got your water temp and the earth, and the oil pressure and the earth if required. So it allows it to use there. And look at that, I've got the other side of the plug. Because of the drive-by wire, I've also put this fella in. And then I've got the other side. So that is our standard pedal wiring. And I do it on all my 3UZs as well. I run a 6-pin DTM plug. I've labelled them. So if it ever goes drive-by-wire, there's actually already a connector. Build a subloom, put a pedal on it, vroom vroom, you're good to go. And the other thing we've got here is the toucan wires. Toucan plugs. No, it's not some bird with a big beak. Can and a can. So I'm about to just plug those in and check and configure that ECU to run that. I'm going to power it up on the bench, even though it's been running, but I've made these changes afterwards. So I've already pinned out, I've checked it, I've double checked it in here, but I'm going to plug that ECU, get it going, connect it to the ECU, to my PC, sorry, with the cable that comes, the tuning cable comes with the kit. And then of course there's the mounting bracket and some stickers that comes with it as well. All pretty straightforward. I got a little bit of testing to do. Oh, and there'll be some vacuum hose. I really try to have everything that's going with the kit here when I do this final video, but I've been running around like a crazy man. And I've got a loom there to check, and a loom over there to check, and a loom over there to check, and a loom at the workshop to check. So I'll get some vacuum hose and I'll reel that off and put that in the box as well. Right, I think that's everything that Elliot wants. As I said, I have changed it a little bit from the original when it was in the workshop, just for fun. But I'm confident I'll just check it now and I'll be all happy. And I think that's everything that needs to go. So I hope that's been helpful. This is just a bit of an example of how we can customize the looms a little bit more than normal. But to us, it's the same thing. We're just located in a slightly different spot, and it takes a little bit longer. There is a tune in that ECU or a startup file, which is should get the engine running. Runs our one, and that's a good step forward before it goes to the dyno. Right, hope that's been helpful. Let me know on that little question I had for you, Elliot, and we'll talk to you soon. Catch you later.